Let's see. Migrant surge fuels record number of homeless New York City students. All right. More than 1900. Okay, this looks like this is what happened last time. So let's try to make this bigger from now. Because it looks like you can't really see the letters that good. All right, that's better. All right. So what does that one? 200%. Okay. More than 1,900 of New York City students, or roughly 1 of every 9 public school kids, experienced homelessness last year, a record highly likely fueled by an arrival of more than 100,000 migrants since 2022. That is a serious problem, and it's starting to trickle down to our kids. And that's what we're going to start off here talking about tonight. And then we're going to go on to, let's see, just the end of the article here. I just wanted to mention this. The Adams administration said in September that more than 19,000 students who are living in shelters are presumed to be migrants have enrolled in public schools since last year. DOE schools do not ask questions about students' immigration status when they enroll, but use students' temporary housing status as a proxy for measuring how many migrants officials have said. Okay, so now let's get into the next article, right? I just thought that was very interesting that our children are being denied services. So we're going to go on more to talk about how our children are being denied services. Okay. Okay. 1 in 8 public school students. See, this was interesting because this one says, the other article said 1 in 9. This one says 1 in 8. The other article said 1,000, it was like 119,000 kids. This article is saying it's 146,000 kids. So notice how they're playing with the numbers, and that's just something that I really wanted to show. So let's go down to here, right here. And I'll post links to all of these articles so you can, read them in details yourself. Let's see. At least 146 public school students in New York City, about 1 in 8, do not have permanent housing at some point during the past school year. A record number and 23% increase from the year before, according to Advocates for Children of New York. The group released the data. The group released the data gathered by the New York State Department of Education on Monday. Almost all of those students were living either in shelters across the city or doubled up temporarily with friends or family, according to the group, which focuses on supporting children from low-income families. These numbers are staggering, said Christine Quinn, the chief executive of WIN, the city's largest operator of homeless shelters. They are quite frankly an indictment of all parts of our city that this many children are living in a shelter. And I'm going to ask the question, if they were being pushed out of the shelters for the illegals, where did they go? Where are our New York, where are our kids that are citizens, that are residents? Where do they go to make room for people whose parents never paid a dime into the system? So let's keep going. There's a couple other things I thought was interesting in this article. Most families who end up in a shelter stay for about a year and a half, Jennifer Pringle, a director of Advocates for Children of New York, said. Childhood homelessness has many ramifications. It has an outsized effect on children of color. I hate that term, children of color. So Black kids, with 94% of students living in shelters identifying as Black or Hispanic, and 35% speaking a first language other than English, the state data shows. Now, I would really like to see those numbers broken down by race specifically, not this Black or Hispanic thing, because we already know, and we're going to get into the Hispanics later on. Homeless children are more likely to be homeless as adults and less likely to graduate from high school, Ms. Quinn said. So I want you to keep that in mind, because later on we're going to touch on Daniel Penny. And with Daniel Penny, Jordan Neely, I want everyone to keep in mind that Jordan Neely was an aged out foster child. His mother was murdered in front of him. If I remember correctly, his mother was murdered in front of him. And he was an aged out foster child. So he had turned 18, he had nowhere to go. The system does not take care of you anymore. You 18, you just out there. Now, I know that when I was 18 years old, I couldn't just be out there on my own. I still needed my mom's help. I still needed my parents' help. How many of you still needed your parents' help when you were 18 years old? This young man, Jordan Neely, did not have that help. We're gonna get into that more later on. Because as you can see, y'all know that's one situation that really breaks my heart. So let's get into some numbers. You know what? I should probably, no, I'll leave them open. Let's get into some numbers, right? Okay, let's make this bigger here. Okay. So now we're on the advocatesforchildren.org. And hi, the real McCoy. Hi, Spicy Gardenia. Hi, Catherine. Okay. So we're gonna just go on down to right here. Wait. Am I in the right? Am I in the right article? Advocates is in. Where's this one? Here it is. This is what I wanted to read. Okay, there we go. Okay. The total number of students identified as homeless in 2023 to 2024 was 23% higher than the prior school year, spurred by a significant uptick in the number of students living in a shelter, as well as a 9% increase in the size of the doubled up population. Okay, and I want to skip down to here. Right here. 2023-24 was the 9th consecutive year in which more than 100,000 New York City public school students experienced homelessness. In other words, children who were in kindergarten the first year, the city hit the ignominious number of $100,000 threshold, now have started high school. The only school system to have ever known That is the only school system they have ever known in which there are more students without a permanent place to call home than there are seats at Yankee Stadium and Citi Field combined. So this has been a steady problem. So if you know that we have a problem with homeless children in this city, why would you allow all of these vampires sucking our tax dollar illegals to come into the system to further exasperate the problem we have with child homelessness? Why would you do that? They know these numbers. They're the one who's telling it to me. It is due to the rent increase. It's due to a lot of things. This was happening. It's due to the rent increase. It's due to the fact that they changed the laws for shelters. It's because the shelters are full of other people. It's due to a lot of things. Okay, so this is the last thing that, as I was searching for articles on this. Oh, am I forgetting my videos? Oh, I sure am. I'm forgetting to show the videos. Okay. Hold on. All right. Let's go to this one.
In a dramatic attempt to deal with a public health crisis.
No, I'm not ready for that yet. I'm not ready. Okay. So this next article that I wanted to get into, right? As I was looking for the other articles about the homelessness between our children here in New York City, I ran across this one. And this one was more heartbreaking to me than, well, it was because I remember. It was because of this. This is what I saw. So when I went looking, I'm going to play this video here, right? This is what I saw on my timeline as I had already prepared to read the prior articles about the homelessness. So now I'm preparing and doing my studies and everything like that. And then this video pops up on my timeline. And I'm going to play it now.
70,000 babies and toddlers in New York rely on therapy to be able to walk and talk. But families and providers tell us services to help these children have
grinded to a halt. Tonight, investigator Masa Saidi digging into what's to blame. Samantha Reyes' son Shakir is diagnosed with autism. To help her 2-year-old, Reyes enrolled him in New York's early intervention program. She says he was evaluated and matched with a behavioral therapist.
It's been approved. It's been approved since September.
But that therapist is on hold.
There's a lot of stress because you want your kids to succeed in everything. I want him to meet every single milestone he has, and I can't because I'm not getting the help.
Tonight, nearly a dozen families and therapists tell me many services have come to a halt. They blame a new state database called the Early Intervention, or EI Hub, launched October 15th. It's where providers enter child data, approve services, and issue payments.
Children's data is missing. We can't send each other paperwork. We've known from the beginning that the hub was going to be a disaster.
2 years ago, Kim Torello says she traveled to Albany to train for the hub. As a coordinator who matches families with services, she spends hours on the site. She shared these screenshots of the system's glitches.
The therapists are ready to start, but we cannot get the authorizations approved because of little glitches in the system.
Was the old system broken?
No, never.
In a statement, the Department of Health acknowledges, quote, some initial issues as these types of platform transitions are always difficult. But they say, quote, there has been no interruption of services. Shakir's speech therapist is continuing with sessions, but says she hasn't been paid.
I can go work in a hospital. I can go work in a private practice, but these kids, they're not getting this time back.
Masa, that mom says she's not getting the services. How many families are having these issues with this website?
Well, I can tell you that an online petition has got nearly 12,000 signatures. The state, they acknowledge that some people are not getting paid, and they say that if a provider asks for it, they are cutting checks to help until they fix whatever this issue is. But they claim that this is not impacting services. A lot to unpack, and I don't think this is the last story you're going to see on this one.
Yeah, clearly two different sides to what's going on here.
Okay, so now our kids that have special needs are not getting the services that they need. So we got homeless kids. We got kids with special needs not getting the services they need early to make sure that they can meet their benchmarks and become functional members of society. Right? So nothing for that. And this is something that they knew was going to happen before it happened. This was not something that it was a surprise. They're not paying the providers, and they're expecting providers to work for free. Child, you know that's not going to happen. Okay. So when I was actually looking for this, because like I said, this popped up on my timeline, and I was like, this is definitely disturbing, to say the least. So as I was looking for this article here popped up. Okay. All right, here we go. New York let residences for kids with serious mental health problems vanish. Desperate families call the cops instead. This article was written in 2022. So before we even get into this, I'm going to tell you why. Just, I don't even have to read the article itself. Just let me read the title again. In 2022, ProPublica wrote an article stating New York let residences for kids with serious mental health problems vanish. So that means if your child has a mental health problem, they're not getting the services in early childhood. They're not getting the services as a teenager. They're not getting inpatient services, outpatient services, medical services, nothing. They're not getting nothing. And then, before I even read this article, let's look at what our mayor is saying about the mentally ill.
Mayors for decades. Mayor Adams announced his plan to take people with mental illness off city streets.
He's directed police and emergency medical workers to involuntarily hospitalize more of them, he says, to get them the help they need. And now CBS 2 political reporter Marsha Kramer is here to sort it all out. Huh?
Pause. So when the parents are begging for services, whether that be services for to get into an adequate housing, or when they're begging for mental health services for their children, they get nothing. But you wait until they become mentally ill adults, and then you want to involuntarily hospitalize them when they're begging for services that you are refusing to give them. And this all ties right back around to Jordan Neely. No services for Jordan Neely. But now that they are over the edge, now all of a sudden you have resources for them. Let's read this article. I'm not even gonna, we don't even have to finish watching this news. I just wanted you to see what he is trying to do. Let's read what he has done. And like I said, this article was written in 2022, so they knew. Okay. Sarah Taylor felt the knot in her stomach. Hold on. Let's make this a little bigger. Okay, there we go. Sarah Taylor felt the knot in her stomach pull tighter even before she answered the phone. The call was from the hospital taking care of her 11-year-old Amari, and she knew what they were going to say. Amari was being discharged. Come pick her up right away. Taylor was sure that Amari, that's her middle name, wasn't ready to come home. Less than 2 weeks earlier, in March 2020, she threatened to stab her babysitter with a knife, and then she ran into the street. Panicked, the babysitter called 911. The police arrived, restraining Amari and packing her into an ambulance, which rushed her to a mental health emergency room at Strong Memorial Hospital, not far from her home in Rochester, New York. This had all become a sickening, familiar routine. Amari had struggled since she was little, racked by a terrible fear that Taylor, who is her great aunt, has raised her for most of her life, would leave her and not come back. She often woke up screaming from nightmares about, another child who clearly has lost their parents. Now, we happen to know what happened to Jordan Neely's parents. We don't know what happened to this young lady's parents, but her great aunt is taking care of her, so clearly her parents are not in the picture. So, children who grow up without their parents having issues that are not being addressed. This seems to be a pattern. Are you noticing a routine here? I'm like trying. I don't know. When I start talking about kids, I get really emotional. Like I get really about. I'm trying so hard not to cry right now. Okay, let's go back to the article. She often woke up screaming from nightmares about someone hurting her family. Again, we don't know how she lost her parents. During the day, she had ferocious tantrums, breaking things, attacking Taylor, and threatening to hurt herself. Taylor searched desperately for help, signing Amari up for therapy and putting her on a wait list for intensive in-home mental health services that are supposed to be available to New York kids with serious psychiatric conditions. Okay? So these are kids with serious psychiatric conditions. Sharon on the Wake Up said jail seems like their only hope to fund the private jails. Yes. Now, you know how I always talk about the fact that Kathy Holcomb wants to bring back convict leasing, or at least private leasing to private corporations. She wants to bring that back. Now she's sitting around here, and I'm going to get into that a little bit deeper on another live. But she's sitting there running around, her and her friends running around talking about how, you know what I'm saying, they're doing the whole clean slate program. And I want people to realize that she wants to clean your slate after she locked you up. She ain't trying to stop locking Black people up unjustly. She ain't trying to stop that. She ain't trying to make the justice system fair for us. She's trying to wipe your record after she takes away years of your life. Now, for those that helps, I'm sure that there are plenty of people who have already been through the system, unfortunately, that will help. But I want you to pay attention, and it does not stop her from her ultimate agenda, which is convict leasing. So let's go back. Yes. Taylor searched desperately for help, signing Amari up for therapy and putting her on the wait list for intensive in-home mental health services that are supposed to be available to New York kids with serious psychiatric conditions. But the programs were full, and it took months to get in. Okay? Now, they go on and on about some of the things that happened to her. They do talk about the fact that she is Black, but I wanted to skip down to this part. They talk about how she's Black, and you know how nervous they are about calling the police on her because she's Black, but sometimes they feel like that's their only option when, you know, when they have no other services. Since the early 1980s, New York residential treatment facilities have served as an option of last resort for very sick children and adolescents. After outpatient and community-based services have failed, like psychiatric hospitals, they provide round-the-clock medical and mental health care, but they are designed for much longer stays. Kids typically end up in them after cycling through emergency rooms and hospital beds without getting better. Often, it seems logical to me. Often, they have had multiple encounters with police, and their families see residential treatment as a last ditch chance to get help before they end up in a juvenile lockup or worse. Now, I propose to you that they know that your child is going to end up in a juvenile lockup, and that's why they're waiting. That is the point. That is why they are allowing illegals to come over here, and they're giving them everything except for the kitchen sink. No, matter of fact, they're giving them everything, including a kitchen sink. Okay? But while your children are sitting here homeless, while the children of New York City, because I don't want to speak negative things into, you know, our children's lives, but while the children of residents of New York City are homeless, mentally ill, and aged out foster children, I want you to keep that in mind. While Eric Adams sits here and tells us that he cares about us, while he sits there and he goes from church to church to church to church, trying to get prayers to somebody to pray off all the demons on him. Sir, the demons are in your DNA. There's not a bottle of holy oil or or holy water that's gonna help You have already made your bed. You lie in it. Your chickens have come home to roost, Mayor Adams. This is what you have done to our children. Okay, let me go back. In the past 10 years, however, more than half of New York's residential treatment facility beds for kids have shut down, with the total bed count plummeting from 500, only 500 for the whole city, 554 in 2012 to just 274 this year. Sick kids often wait months to get into remaining beds, despite a 2005 federal court settlement in which the state agreed to cut wait lists and make admissions faster. So you already see what that 2005 federal court settlement did. Not nothing. So they be sitting around here telling you about all these historic wins that they got in court, and what does it mean in real life? Not nothing. But I bet the lawyer got paid. But I bet the judge got paid. The bailiff got paid. The court reporter got paid. Everybody who's involved with this court settlement got paid. But the kids got nothing. That don't make you mad? Okay. It infuriates me. I don't know if steam is actually coming out of my face right now, but it infuriates me. And now you want to sit here and involuntarily commit people, because that's basically what it is. You want to use all these fancy terms and all these wonderful terms, but that's what it is. You want to involuntarily commit people. But when they kids is asking, when the parents is asking, hey, here's a problem here, I need help, nothing. But when when they get older, the parent is still asking again, hey, my child needs mental help, nothing. And now you wait until it is so far gone that the child is now an adult and homeless in the street and mentally ill without services, and now you want to involuntarily commit them. Let's go back. Let me get off my soapbox. State officials who license and regulate residential treatment facilities have done little to fix the problem. Surprise, surprise. An investigation by ProPublica and the city found instead the officials have made bed shortages worse. I wonder why. Hi, Afro Elite. I wonder why. Greenlighting facility closures, even as the number of kids in psychiatric crisis soared. Oh, you know what I want to add to this? Remember the fact that they told us, and I should have had this article, but sometimes things just pop into my head late. Remember, they had told us that the mental health of our children was off the rails after COVID. Having the kids stay home and all that from home and the shelter in place, it was too much for the kids. This is a fact. This is something they knew. As a matter of fact, they came back and told us how they were going to give more mental health services in the school. And what did they add? Mandated reporters in the school so they could get your child taken away. Not mental health beds. No, that would actually help your child. So why would we give that? So let's go back and let's finish here what else they did not do. In recent years, the state also made the admissions system even more complex, keeping sick kids in limbo while they wait for care. And while they're in limbo, what's happening? What's happening at home? Years ago, when you needed to move a kid up to a residential treatment facility, it just got done, said James. I can't even repeat that last name, who directed mental health programs for kids in Long Island for more than a decade. In the last several years, the system just froze up. I wonder why. So this article is actually very, very long and very detailed. So I don't want to go into too much, but I am going to post a link to it so you can hear more about how they are not giving our children mental health services. Okay. But they're giving everything else to illegals. They're giving them everything, including the kitchen sink. All right. So give me 1 second. I'm going to take a little break and then we're going to come back with the rest. Okay. Let's see if I can do this.